Hello, and thank you so much for listening to the Teacher Business Podcast with me, your favorite English instructor, Professor Hampton. You can find me on my website at www.arhampton.com. And I will let you know during this podcast the other places where you can find my online classes and books. So, the purpose of this podcast is for me to tell the story of how I have built my business, Onyx Online Education and Training, and what I am doing in order to scale it, grow it, and expand it, and especially to increase the finances coming out of this business. We're living in a time where everybody has an online class, a hustle, a workbook, a journal, just everything. Everybody is hustling everything, trying to find money, especially digital products online. So on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, on all social media platforms, you have people running ads saying, I made $10,000 in 1 hour with my online class, or I made $1 million in 6 months with my online class. Everybody is always making all of these thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars off online classes. So now you have everybody trying to cash in on it. Well, I started in 2011. And I used that year because that is when I started my YouTube channel, which is now Hampton English and Writing, to help students, teachers, parents, homeschoolers, anybody who needs to learn English, how to write, teaching you grammar, standards, and the YouTube channel is still up and running today. And those of you who have been watching me for a while and are listening to this podcast on my YouTube channel, thank you so much. The web link will be in the description below. And if you are listening on my website or any other podcast platform, then the websites will be in the show notes. So I figured I would get started with talking about my background. These days, you have people with no educational background, no business background, just, I used to give massages and now I'm making $1 million off online classes. That's how it's going now. But I actually started even further back than 10 years ago. But 10 years ago in 2011 is when I really got serious about developing online assets and then moving into online courses. So let's take a look at my resume, or listen to me give you some of my background from my resume. And I got the idea to do this because very recently I applied to become a certified Black-owned business through American Express's program called Buy Black. That application process was very extensive. One, I had to prove that I was actually a Black person. I mean, literally, I had to take a photo with my camera through their ID identification system to prove that I am indeed a Black person. So that suggests to me that some people have been trying to get over faking Black, maybe, trying to get what they perceive to be financial benefits. So neither here nor there. But part of the process was for me to develop my business resume, not just my professional, used to teach English in colleges and universities resume, but how did your business get started? What do you do as far as daily activities for your business? So I decided that in this first podcast, this is a good way for me to begin. So in my resume that I sent to that program, of course, it starts out with my name and my contact information. I have my website and my LinkedIn profile, all of that. Business and professional highlights. 22 years experience as a college English instructor in higher education, teaching composition, communication, reading, and literature courses to diverse, academically challenged student populations in colleges and universities. 7 years K through 12 substitute teaching experience in local public and charter schools. 5 online courses offered by Onyx Online Education and Training. That's my business, my teacher business, approved for teacher professional development by the Arkansas Department of Education. And I have the link where you can see the approval status. That happened in September. I'm very proud of that. Now my challenge is to actually get teachers in the state of Arkansas to take my online classes. You can earn 6 PD hours, 6 professional development hours for each course that you take. So instead of sitting through tedious seminars or workshops on stuff that you absolutely are bored to tears with, you can take one of my online classes and earn 6 PD hours. I mentioned Udemy. I still have students through Udemy, about 5,600 students. I have over 500 enrolled students on Thinkific. That's my own platform. Current stats for Hampton English and Writing YouTube channel. And this was as of mid-October. 90 subscribers, 9,090 subscribers. I hope to get to 10,000 here really soon. 174 new subscribers in that month. 26.1 thousand views. 82.5 thousand minutes watched. Total views since July 5th, 2011, when I started the channel, 1,446,053 views. And that seems like a small amount considering the length of time I have been manning this channel, but this is with no advertising from me. This is just from people like you who are listening, who are watching, who have found my videos to be helpful and have passed them on to other people. So I am very appreciative of that. So as you can hear, I have a background in English. When I was a kid, I used to play school, right? I used to write very early on for my 2nd grade newspaper. And they had a little journalism class and I took that. So I've been teaching and writing from the beginning. Those are 2 gifts of mine, and not just professionally, but personally as well. So that is why my business is education related. And what do I teach? Writing, reading, editing, proofreading, all of the things that I have been assigned to do in this life. So if you're thinking about developing a business, if you are a teacher or not, it should be related. Your business should be related to something that you have a passion for, that you already do, not a bandwagon you're trying to jump onto thinking you're going to make some money. So education, believe it or not, I only just have a master's degree. I have been in so many doctoral programs that I did not finish. Let me try to count them. One was at Clark Atlanta University. And then this was before I knew what Liberty University was all about, but somebody was like, oh, just get a quick EDD with Liberty. I was enrolled for 1 semester and I was like, no way. And so then there was an English one. And so then with Capella, I started a leadership for higher education one. So that's 4 different times. Capella is the one I got the furthest with. I finished all of the coursework, finished with a 4.0 GPA, but so many student loan borrowers, my finances would not allow me to finish. Then life got in the way. And so I did not complete a doctorate. And at this particular point, I really just don't have the unction to even go for a doctorate anymore. And I'll tell you why. Along the way, when I was building a career in academia, meaning I was going to presentations, I was writing articles, I was doing everything you need to do. I was in a doctoral program, everything you need to do to groom yourself for success as an administrator in higher education. That is what I was doing. But I discovered that I was not going to progress in the field of higher ed the way that I thought. My goal was to get a PhD and to become a dean of something, right? English department, whatever. But it soon became apparent to me that that was not going to be the end point. That is not what I was going to be able to accomplish. And so I was a little distressed about that. So as you can see, because I'm going to tell you all of the jobs that I have had, literally, you're going to see I've had odd jobs, survival jobs, just in between education jobs in order to make ends meet and try to account for the fact that I probably was not going to make it in academia the way that I thought that I would. And listen, let me just say this, because we've seen it already in the media so much. Higher ed is very discriminatory, racially discriminatory against Black women. Yeah, I said it because it's true. And you've seen evidence of that recently in the national news. So I gave my bio in my business resume because remember, this is what I submitted to apply for the Buy Black program through American Express, where they certify Black-owned businesses, meaning that we should have better opportunities for funding, for grant funding, to get capital in various other ways to increase and expand our businesses. So here's the bio. Ashawn R. Hampton worked as an English instructor in higher education for 22 years, most notably at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. She graduated from the Donaghy Scholars Program at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock with a BA in English under the direction of Dr. C. Earl Ramsey Emeritus, and with an MA, Master's in English from the University of Central Arkansas. Ashawn also completed the Instructional Design Certification Program at Walden University. In the early 2000s, Ashawn frequently participated in the highly competitive Scholars in Residence Summer Faculty Research Program sponsored by the Faculty Resource Network at New York University. Ashawn's original work, History of the Arkansas State Hospital, 1859 to 1930, was published in the Pulaski County Historical Review and continues to be cited by history scholars today. She also wrote articles on notable African American Arkansans that were published in the Encyclopedia of Arkansas History and Culture through her affiliations with the Mosaic Templars Cultural Center. In recent years, Ashawn completed coursework for doctoral candidacy in the Leadership for Higher Education program at Capella University with a 4.0 GPA. With her doctoral studies on hold, Professor Hampton has found success in online education. She produces and teaches her own original writing, grammar, proofreading, and digital media courses for global audiences through her company, Onyx Online Education and Training. In addition to self-publishing 27 books on a variety of topics, Ashawn is also the creator of the Proofreading Power Academy that offers workbooks and online training for freelancers and curious learners seeking additional streams of income. Visit her website for more information at www.arhampton.com. So in the vein of Behind the Music, have you seen that show on VH1? This is the story behind my bio. So true enough, I started teaching in the 90s right after graduate school at Philander Smith College. They gave me the business because I was only like 23. So basically I was teaching my peers and I had to stand my ground with them to gain authority in the classroom. But Sarah Lou Gifford, bless her heart, who was over the English department at the time, gave me a shot, hired me fresh out of graduate school with no teaching experience at all. I had not been a TA. I worked in the writing center during my time in graduate school. She took a chance, started at Philander. They did not give me a textbook. Literally, they told me they did not have a book. I literally taught a whole semester, my first whole semester, with worksheets from books that I had from my graduate school and bachelor's degree program. Literally. It wasn't until the end of that semester that I discovered that they actually had a book. So nobody can tell me I do not know how to teach. I was thrown into the fire of teaching and was not let out of that crucible until here very recently. Somebody left a note on my office door calling me to be of the school. I did not care. I mean, I have never, unfortunately, had a teaching situation where I was allowed to fully teach the way that I know that I can. I've always had to deal with disciplinary issues, even from some grown adults, people who thought they were some grown adults. I had to pull one woman out of class during the middle of class because she was disturbing everybody on the cell phone. She was trying to have a conversation on her freaking cell phone. So I pulled her out of class and she was like, "Oh, why are you talking about me like I'm a kid? Because you act like one." I mean, I was really loud because I was that teacher who probably said some things I should not have said, who got triggered really easily when you talk crazy to me or try to get silly with me. And it's because people have paid to be there. And it is unfair to people who actually want to learn to have to deal with people who, just can't seem to behave themselves. So that's how I got started with that. Then after 18 months at Philander, I went to Morehouse College, and shouts out to Dr. E. Dolores Stevens. I sent an unsolicited resume to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, meaning they were not looking for anybody. There was not an open position in the English department, but I sent my resume, and bless her heart, that was another story as well. She took a chance on me and hired me. She did not know I had such a fiery personality. But listen, I was the youngest person at the time on their faculty. I was pausing there. I was the youngest faculty member, period, when I started teaching at Morehouse College. Everybody was gray-haired. So I had some gray-haired older men challenging me, and I stood up to the challenge. So that was a trip. So I learned through my experience at Morehouse that I had to get very direct. I made the mistake of talking to students and saying things like, well, if you do this assignment, if you do that, you might be able to pass. And I had some kid at the end of the semester said, "You told me I could pass." So then I got to the point where I would just say to people, "You're flunking," and just look at them. "You are going to flunk this class." No chaser. I became Miss Hampton, the B, no chaser. Bad A, English instructor. But the number one compliment I have always gotten is that students learn a lot from me and they understand clearly the concepts I teach because of the way that I am able to instruct them. So that's always been a high compliment for me. But I could have helped so many other students had I not had to deal with their ridiculous attitudes. And even in online classes where I taught as an adjunct, people were still writing ridiculous things and trying to say ridiculous things. So that's the reason why I am not teaching traditionally right now, but we'll get to that. So I just finished my bio. Now let's take a look at my business history. How did I develop this business? So again, I'm looking at my business resume. In 2003, I started Cornerstone Communications as a sole proprietor, DBA. That means doing business as, meaning that I am a solopreneur, one person, but instead of doing business under my personal name, I chose a fictitious business name. And I had to go to the Pulaski County Courthouse in order to fill out those documents. And on December the 1st, 2003 is when I did that. That is the certification date for my DBA. Again, Cornerstone Communications, because at that time I was freelancing as a writer, proofreader, and copy editor. So I had students and graduate students, professionals sending me their written documents through my website and paying me through PayPal for my services. So my daily activities included performing writing, proofreading, and editing services for individual students and business professionals electronically through my website, www.easyedits.net. That was the first website I developed for the express purpose of conducting business online. And in future podcasts, we will go through that website. I'll tell you the story of how I developed it, and it's still up right now. So we'll just go through it. But in February 2016, I applied for an EIN with the IRS. That is an employer identification number, because I got really, really serious about using my skills to build a small business. So then I began generating income through YouTube, AdSense, through my print books, as well as my proofreading and editing services. So because I started getting funds through these various streams of income, I was thinking, you know what, at some point I might have to hire a person. So let me go ahead and get serious about this and get an EIN. So started 2003 with Cornerstone Communications, 2016, still Cornerstone Communications, I got an EIN. And just a business tip for those of you who decide to change the name of your small business, you keep the same EIN that you originally applied for. It doesn't matter the business name. Now, there are some qualifications to that, but I double checked with the IRS. So although now I am doing business as Onyx Online Education and Training, I still have the same EIN that was registered under Cornerstone Communications. So then last year in 2020, that is when I became the director owner of Onyx Online Education and Training. I once again, on October the 1st, 2020, went back to the Pulaski County Courthouse and registered the name as a sole proprietor, Onyx Online Education and Training. I thought it was so telling that December the 1st, 2003 is when I did Cornerstone Communications. And on the first day of October 1, 2020, is when I submitted the DBA for Onyx Online Education and Training. So I guess the first day of the month is a new beginning for me. New beginnings, new adventures. So as far as the daily activities I perform for this business, this is what I wrote. The day-to-day operations of this business occur primarily online, including correspondence with current or potential clients and enrolled students. As the director and owner of Onyx Online Education and Training, I begin my day by checking emails for comments, questions, partnership opportunities, new student enrollment notices, course completion status, and revenue reports. At least once a week, I check the appearance of my business websites on computer and mobile devices to ensure the best viewing experience. I also check SEO performance reports to discover areas of opportunity for marketing. If needed or by request, I check the accuracy of online course content that is currently published. So if somebody has a question about a slide or something, a video in one of my online courses, and I'll check it just to make sure it's on target, and it is 10 times out of 10. The problem is not with me or my content. At this point, all of the courses have been completed and published, but for the past 10 years, my days were spent researching, outlining, writing course curriculum, designing, recording all of the lecture videos, the notes, the handouts, exercises, both paper and electronic, for each of the 40 online courses I offer, in addition to posting each and every asset to 3 major online course and social media platforms. That is no joke. That's on top of writing book after book after book after book. So I have put in a whole lot of work since 2011 to develop this online business. Currently, I spend the bulk of my day researching social media marketing and how I can improve my visibility online to attract more business. I check out library books on sales and marketing. I am currently enrolled in a popular social media marketing course for business owners. Soon, I will begin researching grant and philanthropic offerings for Black women and small business owners, since I need cash beyond my limited personal finances to properly scale and operate my online business. Everything related to the business, the software, online subscriptions, Xerox paper, pens, ink, printers, computers. I've gone through so many computers. All of that I have paid for out of pocket over these past 10 years. Teacher salaries are already very limited. So I have been using my own personal finances to develop this business, which means that I have had faith in the fact that it will eventually pay me, that my business will eventually pay for itself. And so that brings us to my professional employment history, because it has been better for me not to work full time this entire 10 years. And that's how I got into substitute teaching. So I started substitute teaching in September 2014. Can you believe it? Here in my city. Not because it is what I want to do or like to do, but it provides some steady income. Now, it's still up and down. The work is not steady because you basically have to wait until early in the morning to see if anybody calls out absent. And of course, you can do this online and not just by phone, but you really don't get notices until right an hour or two before school is supposed to start. Sometimes if you're a long-term substitute, then that means you go to the same school every day and you're basically taking the place of the teacher. So you work the hours the teacher would normally work and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. And I'm still substitute teaching in order to get some finances in between freelancing and running my online business. For a little while, I was an editor for the Department of Human Services for the state in the Office of Rules and Promulgation. That was with all of the lawyers. So I edited legal documents, and they had a research style guide that I helped to improve. Not that anybody liked the fact that I improved it. So I have experience copy editing, technical and legal work. Survival job, collections, customer service phone work for a financial company, 2017, 2018. So that was so stressful. And I just do not like phone work, but I did it as a survival job. Digital content coordinator for a digital marketing firm here in the city. I really did like the job. This was work that I actually enjoyed because it was creative. I built websites. I developed websites for scratch for small businesses. And so I had to make slideshow videos for them to put on their websites. I did audio narration. I did all of the SEO research, wrote SEO content for the websites. Basically, everything you have to do for a website, I did myself. I was the only one in the office building these websites. So when the salespeople would get an order for a website, I was the one doing it. That was short-lived because unfortunately the guy who hired me did some flip-flopping with his position. There was some unrest at the time I got hired, and that unrest affected me for the short time that I was there, to the point where I was like, you know what, I can't do it anymore. And unfortunately, I am famous in my family for quitting jobs. If it is completely stressing me out, you know what, you can have it. I don't know what I'm going to do for money, but I'll just figure it out. That has always been my attitude. Adjunct at Strayer University. This was fun because at the time I applied with them in 2016, they were new to the city. So they have a physical location in addition to an online presence. But I taught developmental English, Comp 1, Comp 2, at night from 6 to 10 to adult learners. And I don't know what it is with me and adult learners. I don't know why people have always tried to challenge me, but that was quite an experience too. Adjunct English instructor at Philander Smith College. And this was back in 2016 during the summer. As I told you, I started teaching at Philander Smith College. That was my very first job, teaching. Sarah Lou Gifford hired me. But I forgot to tell you that my maternal grandmother, Essie Lee Jackson, actually used to work in the cafeteria at Philander. Philander is where my parents met. My mother actually graduated. My father, not so much, because he was a music major. And so he was in the bands a lot and, living the band life, the cool dude band life. So it was significant to me. And here's an interesting note. So if you're still listening to this podcast at this point, you are getting a little juicy tidbit about my life here. But my mother was pregnant on campus with me. Back then, that was a no-no, right? She could have gotten put out of school. She was in her last year. She was in her senior year. She could have gotten put out, but instead her friends made her dresses. She said she had a couple of friends who knew how to sew, so they made her maternity clothes so that you really couldn't tell she was pregnant. But one of the deans, she said, called her in because she realized it. So she told my mother that she realized it, that she was pregnant, but they made accommodations for her so that she was able to complete her senior year without getting kicked out of college. So I literally was in the womb on a college campus. So I guess it was just in the stars for me to teach at a college, but for me to begin my college instruction career at the college where my maternal grandmother worked in the cafeteria. I mean, she could really cook. That food was really, really good. Colleges will not understand ever. College students will not understand ever high quality soul food, good food, cafeteria eating. And that is unfortunate. Parents met there. My mother almost got kicked out of school because she was pregnant there, but she did not get kicked out of school. So that's an interesting story there. And I went back there briefly as an adjunct. Adjunct means part-time teacher. And it's really sad because adjuncts do not get any benefits whatsoever, no insurance, no nothing, no guarantee of a job. Basically, you are the lowest on the totem pole. You are usually stuck with composition classes if you are teaching English. A lot of adjuncts have to teach at more than one institution just to make ends meet. So one could be teaching 3 classes at one institution, a couple of online courses, another 3 classes at another institution some miles away. It's a rat race. It really is, and it really is unfortunate. Full-time jobs at the master's degree level are rare, which is another reason why I was in and out of academia. If you are not tenure track, then it is very difficult to get a full-time position and to keep a full-time position without being tenure track. Educational Testing Service, ETS, they were based in New Jersey. I started with them in 2016, but I actually worked with them years before, like in the 90s when I first started teaching. But what I did was to work from home. I scored essay responses for the SAT and the Texas STAR exam. So whenever students had to write an essay for these standardized tests, and I was one of the ones who was scoring them. I did enjoy that work, but with all of the hoopla and flip-flopping about standardized testing, they lost those contracts, and then Pearson picked them up. And then Pearson, I don't know if they disbanded their scoring, but they are no longer requiring the standardized essay. That's what it was. And so that work ended for me. But I did enjoy working from home and scoring those essays. For a brief moment, I worked at the Little Rock Job Corps Center. as an academic instructor, but I was during a reading course. And this was so unfortunate. I mean, I'm not even going to tell you the tripped out stuff that happened to me at the Job Corps. Let's just say I didn't last there very long. And it was because I had a meltdown. I had a complete meltdown with those students. I mean, just cursing. They thought they were just going to curse at me in a room, ask me to throw their trash away, confront me physically, and I completely went off. I was barely there 3 months. But my job was to help them pass the language section of the TABE, T-A-B-E standardized test. They had to pass the TABE test in order to get to their online high school curriculum. And a lot of those kids had been in that class like forever because they just could not pass the language part. So I was able to help in the 3.5 weeks that I was there, literally. I was able to help 3 students to finally pass. And I was so sad that I couldn't last longer because I could have helped everybody in that room. But again, disciplinary issues, and then they were more physical. So listen, I'm not going to let you touch me. I'm not going to let you hit me. You are not going to aggressively come at me because I'm right there with you. I'm right there, chest to chest. What do you want to do? If you hit me, that's whatever I do next is self-defense. That was my attitude, and it is unfortunate that teachers have to defend themselves against student violence. But that's what happened there. I can't believe I'm even telling y'all that, but that's what happened there. So I was very short-lived there, but I remember one girl I told, and I was saying this half jokingly, I said, visualize yourself making the minimum passing score. She came back to me and she said she scored even higher because she visualized a higher score for herself, and that is what she made. And she was able to pass that test and get out of that class. So I have the ability to help more students. And like I said, I just really regret the fact that in my entire teaching career, I was never in a supportive enough environment where I could just teach and help students. And that is a sad commentary on K through 12 and higher education these days. So then briefly in 2013, and there are a lot of gaps in my employment history, and there's a lot of overlap. So it's difficult if you're trying to look at the dates of my resume. I have worked 2 or 3 jobs at a time, especially teaching adjunct. If I was teaching adjunct, then I probably had a customer service job, or I was substitute teaching. I was hustling it to try to make ends meet. So I have some gaps and overlaps in my resume, but I was at Remington College for a term, and that is a technical college for health professions where kids could learn to be like techs, like radiology techs or phlebotomy techs, that sort of thing. I taught Composition 1 and Composition 2. This was so interesting to me that the lady who was acting as the dean of the time over general education called me in because literally students complained that I made them revise their essays one time. They had to write their essay and then revise it. And they complained that they had to revise their essay one time. And I literally almost hit the floor. I metaphorically hit the floor. Because I'm like, do you know how many times I've had to revise stuff? And you're hollering about one time? So those kids could not understand the value of writing. But when you are writing medical reports, if you are in dentistry and you are what do they call it? A hygienist, you have to write reports. If your writing is not clear, one, your doctors, and other professionals are going to be highly frustrated because you don't know how to write and express yourself in writing. And you could actually mess some instructions up for people. You can mess some people up with your bad writing. So that was that. I actually, in 2013 to 2015, I was substitute teaching with Kelly Educational Services, and that was a trip. But that's how I got started substitute teaching back in 2013, was through a temporary agency. And it was only for charter schools at that time. And let me just disabuse some of you of the idea that charter schools are so much better than public schools. No, they're not. Or if you think private schools are so much better than public schools, the only thing private schools have over public schools is that they are probably able to kick you out. They are probably able to kick students out faster and permanently. In public schools, did you hear the story recently of 2 students who killed their Spanish teacher? Those are the kids you have now in public schools. And I'm saying kids in the air quotes. And nobody is putting them out. If you write them up, they come right back to your class. If they get expelled, 9 times out of 10, they're going to go to some other school. They're coming right back to the same school. So it doesn't matter. Discipline is a joke in these schools. And that's sad as well. And this is coming from somebody who is still currently substitute teaching. So I see this stuff. And in a second, I will tell you about my lockdown experience when I was substitute teaching. This just happened last Friday. Oh yeah, education gets real out here. So where did I stop? 2013, substitute teaching. Well, for a brief time, I worked for AT&T in their National Internet Services Department. That's again phone work, customer service. And that was horrible. It was so hard. One, their training was horrible. What they trained us on was not even the actual freaking job. How does that happen? We were just learning on the fly. But basically, this is when DSL was still around. When people had trouble with their DSL internet service, they would call in and we would try to help them troubleshoot. And when I tell you, we had a lot of speakers, a lot of people who did not speak English. We had to get translators and stay on the phone for freaking hours trying to help them out. And then a lot of older adults. Literally, this woman called in crying because she could not figure out why she could not open her email and all of her icons were gone. And she was just, I just don't know. I'm trying to get her, ma'am, can I please remote in, because we could remote into the computers. Can you please just do these couple of things so that I can remote in and I can just take care of it? I just don't know. Oh my God. Arkansas Baptist College. Oh my goodness. Horrible. I was there from 2010 to 2011. When I say that was such a stressful year, that was a stressful year. And I'm just going to say it because we're in a time where, we want to support HBCUs, but HBCUs have problems that they need to actually work and resolve. They need to work it out and resolve it for the sake of the students and for the sake of their legacies. But students were fighting early in the morning. I remember I had 8 o'clock classes. Before 8 o'clock, they were fighting in the courtyard. Like literally almost every morning. Why? It's too early in the morning for that. Other teachers were literally having conversations about what they will do if a student hits them and how they will sue the college. I was physically confronted by a male student. We were about the same height, but I was not backing down. We were just literally yelling and screaming all in the halls. I had to walk out of a class. I mean, really. They were so horrible, so loud, just decided they were not going to listen to me at all. I just quietly gathered my things and walked out and went back upstairs to the office. I can't believe she walked out. Oh my God, is she coming back? I paid for this class. I'm like, literally, and that was a trigger for me. I paid for this class. Are you out of your mind? Well, then you should act like it. You should respect the educational process enough so that you get the value of your dollar. And they really were paying for it, because I'm not going to tell you everything that happened at that HBCU, but just know that, man, those students got a raw deal when it came to their student loans. I'll just leave it at that. Strayer University. 2010 to 2012. Now, this is when they very first got started. That's right. They first got started in 2010, and that's when I was there. And then I went back for another round in 2016. But Administrative Specialist 3. Oh, yeah, because I know how to type for the Office of Accountability, Academic Accountability at the State Department of Education. Customer Service Representative, once again, for an insurance company. It was overnight. I literally had an overnight job. Then I had an 8 to 5 job. Then I had a part-time job on the weekends. Literally, teachers struggle to make ends meet. For 4 years, I was on radio. I was on the radio. It was Citadel Broadcasting back then they changed it to Cumulus Media. But I actually got started on community radio. I had developed my own music program show, and it got picked up by our local terrestrial radio station here. So for 4 years, I did that. Also, I did production. I did radio news. All within these 4 years, I did radio news. So it was great. I really did enjoy that job too. But then budget cuts, they switched companies, they cut the budget. I got cut. So many people got cut. Radio is just not the same these days. The station is still there, but when I tell you they are down to a skeleton crew. But when I was there in 2005, that was its heyday. And man, it was so much fun. Going out on remotes, meeting people in the community. It was great. In October of 2005 until June of 2017, that's when I was an essay scorer for Pearson for that many years. And then after 2017, they just sort of stopped doing the essay scoring that I was qualified to do because they stopped requiring the standardized test on the SAT. But that was a lot of fun, and that was a work from home opportunity. Back in 2004 to June 2005, I worked at the University of Phoenix, and man, they are no longer in business. But back then, I actually got to teach an introduction to film studies class. I taught college writing and professional communication. So I was not just teaching composition. And it was basically, it's like, let me see your resume. Oh, you took these classes. You can teach these classes then. So that was fun back then. Contract historian for the Mosaic Templars Cultural Center. I was one of the first historians to work on that project. You can go to the Mosaic Templars Cultural Center website to see the work that they have done. It is a Black History museum here in the city. But back then, we were in they were making renovations on a historic property that belonged to the Mosaic Templars, who ran an insurance company and all sorts of businesses in the area. And so I was the first to write and research about the organization and its founders. And those articles got published in the Encyclopedia of Arkansas History and Culture. So you will see that they've been edited. Not that my work was edited, but they added some things to it through the years. Other writers have added some information to those articles that I wrote. But I definitely did the groundwork and got the ball rolling. That was me and Jim Russell. Jim Russell is a white guy, but we clicked. We really did. We made a pretty good team. That was a pretty good experience. In 2003, for 1 year, I worked as a technical writing instructor at UALR, my alma mater, where I taught writing for the workplace, which was a multimedia class geared towards professional writing. I taught business writing, how to write proposals, resumes, memos, fact sheets, speeches, do graphics with PowerPoint presentations. I really enjoyed that. And that's the sort of writing class that I enjoy teaching, not just showing you how to do essays, but showing you real world business documents and how to develop them. That is a class that I like to teach. So that was a good time. The students were awful, but that was a good class. GRE scoring supervisor with ETS, Educational Testing Service. This was back in 2002, 2004. Again, a work from home opportunity. I actually got flued out to New Jersey to the headquarters, and that was a good time as well. 2001 to 2002, I actually worked as a technical writer. So before I taught the technical writing class, business writing class, I actually worked as a technical writer. And that was a grant-funded project for the Criminal Justice Institute. And that particular grant did not get refunded. So the position dissolved. But basically, I wrote content for grants and grant proposals, website copy. They were just developing a website. They had a newsletter that I was responsible for and distributing that to all of these police and justice professionals. So that was a pretty cool experience too. Back in 1997 to 2001, this was like the only time I was at an institution for more than a couple of semesters. This was at Morehouse. I was a full-time instructor for 4 years there in Atlanta, Georgia. And I must say, that was the best work environment I have ever been in. My colleagues were so smart, so passionate, just so on point. They were some of the smartest people I have ever worked with. One passed away, James Richardson, and I was so sad that I was not able to be in touch with him before he passed away. But we did panels and conferences together. I mean, really smart people. That was a really good environment for me. And I got started way back in 1996. Yeah, you have probably figured out my age by now. I know. I don't look it. I don't sound it. I got my very first job there at Philander Smith College, teaching composition, developmental reading, and literature courses. And eventually they gave me a book. Eventually they gave me books, plural, to teach from. But my very first semester there, no book. So that is my background. So hopefully you have enjoyed this podcast. If you are still listening, it's because you love the sound of my voice. And I must be entertaining you. And then just going back through my resume and remembering these things, because a lot of these things I forgot, just telling the stories and even thinking about the situations and what was actually happening when I was in these different positions. It's sort of interesting for me to look back. So again, head to my website, www.arhampton.com. You can also go to onyxedonline.com to take a look at the online classes. But arhampton.com is my hub. You can find all of my social media, all of my classes, the teacher PD hours, everything from arhampton.com. So until the next episode, thank you so much for listening. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.